Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most personal and, let's be honest, complex topics out there, the search for a partner.
It's a question almost everyone asks at some point. And in the world we live in today, it can feel just completely overwhelming. It seems like there are endless options, but at the same time, finding a real, genuine connection can feel next to impossible. So where do you even begin?
Well, let's start by maybe shifting our perspective a little. What if we stop seeing this as a problem that needs to be solved and start thinking of it more like a journey? And for any journey, you're going to need a map. So we're going to explore a map of the terrain, outlining the different paths you can take to find that connection.
Let's start with the most traditional path, the one that's been around for, well, forever. Tapping into the connections you already have, your own social circles.
Now, this path is all about a classic trade-off. On one hand, you have this incredible advantage, a kind of built-in trust. Your friends and family, they know you, right? So the recommendations are often pre-vetted and you already share some social context. But on the other hand, it requires you to be vulnerable. Actually asking for a setup can feel a bit like you're trying too hard. And if a connection doesn't work out, it can definitely create some awkwardness in your friend group.
All right, let's move on to the next path, which for so many of us has become the default route in today's world, the digital frontier. Yeah, we're talking about dating apps, social media, all of it.
And here we find the core paradox of modern dating. The access you have to a huge pool of people is, well, it's unprecedented. And the ability to be direct about what you're looking for can be super efficient. But the downsides are pretty significant. The whole experience can feel superficial, often boiling down to a few photos and a short bio. And that constant cycle of swiping, matching, and messaging, it can lead to some serious burnout, especially when conversations just fizzle out.
So what about a completely different approach, one that doesn't involve any active searching at all? This brings us to our third path, the role of chance, or what a lot of people like to call serendipity.
You've heard this before, right? It's this idea that a lot of people really hold on to, that the best connections aren't the ones you hunt for, but the ones that just find you when you're out there living your life. It's a pretty romantic idea, and it definitely takes the pressure off.
But here's a really compelling counterargument. Is chance really just some passive force that we're supposed to wait around for? Or is it actually something we help create through our actions? This question gets us to a really central debate in this whole search for a partner.
This really leads us to two very different mindsets. You've got the active search, where you are proactively putting yourself out there. You're on the apps, you're going to events with intent. It puts you in the driver's seat for sure, but that risk of burnout is very real. And then you have passive openness. Now, this isn't about just sitting at home doing nothing. It's about being receptive to connections in your day-to-day life without making it a specific goal. There's way less pressure, but you are relying a lot more on circumstance.
Okay, so we've laid out the map, you have your social circles, the whole digital world, and this path of chance, which can be approached in one of two ways. So, with all that in front of you, how in the world do you choose your starting point?
First things first, a little dose of reality. It is so important to acknowledge that none of these paths come with a guarantee, not a single one. Many people try all of these methods, sometimes for a long time, and still feel frustrated. The goal here isn't to find a magic bullet, but to find a strategy that feels right and, sustainable for you. So instead of a rigid plan, here are just 3 things to consider. First, acknowledge your own personality. Are you more comfortable actively searching, or does the idea of just letting things happen naturally feel better? Be honest with yourself. Second, try to define your goal, even if it's just loosely. Knowing what you're looking for helps narrow things down. And finally, just choose one method to try first. Don't try to do everything at once. That is a surefire recipe for getting overwhelmed.
Ultimately, this explainer is a map, not a destination. There isn't a single right answer here. The real question is about finding a path that aligns with who you are right now. The journey of finding a partner so often begins not with finding them, but with understanding yourself. So, now that you've seen the map, which direction will you take first?